We've got this huge challenge, right? How do we feed everyone on the planet without wrecking it in the process? For a long time, the answer was chemical fertilizers. But what if the real solution isn't made in a factory at all? What if it's been living in the soil this whole time? So today, let's dive into the world of biofertilizers, these incredible microscopic allies that could totally change the future of farming.
For the better part of a century, modern farming has run on chemical fertilizers. And yeah, they worked. They gave us this massive, incredible boom in food production. But here's the thing. That boom had a dark side. It came with a hidden cost, a kind of environmental IOU that's finally coming due. So you can see the dilemma here. On one hand, you had the promise, the quick win, right? More food, bigger harvests, happier farmers. But on the other hand, well, that's the problem. The long-term damage was just adding up, and it started to threaten the very soil we all depend on.
So what are we actually talking about when we say hidden costs? Well, for starters, all that chemical stuff doesn't just stay in the field. It washes out, gets into our water, and in the soil, it's like setting off a bomb, wiping out all the good guys, the helpful little microbes. And the real kicker, over time, it actually makes the soil less fertile and can even make plants weaker and more likely to get sick. Kind of the opposite of what you want, right? Okay, so with all these problems piling up, people started thinking there has to be a better way. And you know where they found the answer? Not in some high-tech chemistry lab, but right under our feet, in the living soil itself. And that, my friends, is where biofertilizers make their grand entrance.
So what is a biofertilizer exactly? Honestly, it's a pretty simple idea. It's basically a package that's full of living microorganisms. Think of them as tiny helpers that do really important jobs for plants, like grabbing nitrogen out of the air or unlocking nutrients that are already in the soil. They're like little on-site fertilizer factories. Now, I know when you hear the word bacteria, your mind probably jumps straight to germs, right? But we got to change that way of thinking. These guys aren't germs. A much better way to think of them is as microscopic farmers, a whole crew working 24/7 right there on a plant's roots. And this is a full-on team effort. It's not just some random jumble of microbes. Nope. These are specialists. It's like a construction crew where you have your plumbers, your electricians, your framers. Each one has a specific job, and they all work together to help the plant thrive. And if we look at this workforce, you've got some major departments. You've got the nitrogen fixers. Their job is to grab nutrients right out of thin air. Then there are the phosphate solubilizers. They're like the locksmiths for the soil. You've even got microbes that help with composting. Every single group has a critical role to play. All right, first up, let's talk about the heavy lifters of the group, the nitrogen fixers. See, nitrogen is like superfood for plants. It's absolutely essential. But most of it's just floating around in the air, and plants can't use it. That's where these microbes come in. They have this amazing, almost magical ability to grab that nitrogen and turn it into something the plant can actually eat. Okay, next up, the phosphate solubilizers. And this is where it gets really, really cool. Most soil is actually packed with phosphorus. So you'd think, great, no problem. But the thing is, it's locked away chemically. The plant can't get to it. These microbes are the key. They come in, dissolve that lock, and set the phosphorus free for the plant. So to really get how this all works, let's zoom in on one specific example. This is probably the most famous partnership in the whole microbe world, the relationship between rhizobium bacteria and plants like peas, beans, and lentils. I mean, this is just nature showing off. It's incredible. This whole thing doesn't happen by accident. It all starts with a conversation, but it's a chemical one. The plant basically puts out a call, like a flare signal, saying, hey, I need some help over here. And it's looking for a very specific bacterial partner. And here's how that conversation starts. The plant's root releases these chemicals called flavonoids. You can think of it like a chemical handshake or maybe a secret password. It's a super specific invitation, and only the right kind of rhizobium bacteria even know what it means. So the bacteria get the message and they're like, okay, we're on our way. They move over to the root and latch on. And then, this is the amazing part. The plant itself reaches out, curling its own root hair around the bacteria, basically giving them a hug and trapping them right where it wants them. Now that the bacteria are held in place, the plant builds something called an infection thread.
I know, infection sounds bad, but it's not. It's actually more like a red carpet, a special tunnel the plant creates to bring its new partners safely inside, deep into the root cells.
And the results of all this? The plant forms these little bumps called nodules on its roots. These are basically custom-built houses, little microbe condos for the bacteria. The plant gives them food and a safe place to live, and in exchange, the bacteria work 24/7 as tiny fertilizer factories, pumping out nitrogen for the plant. It's the perfect deal.
So that's the science, this beautiful, efficient little partnership. But what does it actually mean? What's the payoff for farmers, for us, for the planet? Let's get into the benefits. And the benefits are huge. For farmers, it's cheaper. For the planet, it's way cleaner, no pollution. And it's totally renewable. But it gets even better. These little guys actually fight off bad bacteria, they improve the soil itself, and they even release substances that help the plant grow bigger and stronger. It's a win-win-win. Okay, let's put some numbers on this. We're talking about these microbes adding anywhere from 20 to, get this, 200 kilograms of nitrogen to the soil per hectare. That is a ton of fertilizer that a farmer doesn't have to buy or spray. It's just made for free, right there in the ground. And what does all that free fertilizer get you? More food, plain and simple. We're seeing yield increases of 10, 20, sometimes up to 50%. That's a massive, massive difference. And it all comes from simply working with nature. So when you put all of this together, you realize it's more than just a new product. It's a whole new way of thinking about farming. It's about shifting from fighting against nature with chemicals to actually partnering up with it. Yeah, biofertilizers aren't just another thing to buy. They represent a totally different philosophy. It's about building a system that doesn't just take from the soil. Instead, it gives back. It makes the soil healthier, protecting this incredible resource for our kids and their kids. Which kind of leaves us with this one big question, doesn't it? We have this massive global challenge. How do we feed everyone sustainably? And could it be that the answer isn't some brand new invention, but was here all along, in the smallest, oldest living things on our planet? When you look at the science, you have to admit, the potential is just absolutely huge.